The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence. Collision Specialists. 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence.
Fake news. Boston wrestling is fake news.
Just like a desert flower, waiting on the rain to come. And all I know is anger, lies, confusion. And what I'm saying is you don't realize what this means. Have we seen our finest hour? Good times surely will come. Just like a desert flower, waiting on the rain to come.
Yeah, get the setup, baby.
All right,
That's the first
there we go,
one you
baby.
gotta
Let's
do.
fix this up.
Yeah,
I'll cut all this out. Don't worry about it.
that's right.
That's all backwards, though.
Yeah,
that's always the
that's
problem.
it. Oh, we're busy.
All right, so a special Tuesday with Tony Atlas here. Tony's here from Maine. He came down. He's doing a little signing on Wednesday. So he's visiting Indie Music Studios along with one half of Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh. So I want to say, Tony, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you there, Monty. It's always great coming on the number one wrestling entertainment show. See, I got my Monte and the Pharaoh here, and then I got my Spectral Cup here. Okay? Now, how y'all like that look, baby?
You know, Pharaoh uses that little gimmick.
Pharaoh do that too.
He does that too.
You got his reading glasses here, and he got it. Well, you know, over the week, I want to apologize to your fan. You know, I know the month is about over, the month of February, but we all know that February is Black History Month. So I think I talked to Martin, and I said, Martin, let us do a little segment, a little bit on Black history. Now, in the struggle for freedom here in America, we all fought for it. Blacks fought for it. Oriental fought for it. Irish, Dutch, German, every American fought for freedom. But over the years, when it comes to the struggle of Black American, I say Black America, but if y'all prefer, I would say African Americans. The struggle for African America, didn't start with Martin Luther King. So what I asked Marty to do is try to talk about tonight. I'd like to talk about tonight about those that have sacrificed a lot for the struggle of freedom of African Americans in this country that didn't get the recognition that I felt that they deserved. I went on the computer because I'm not the brightest bulb in the room. The lights on, but nobody home upstairs. The doctor was going to give me a blood test, and I stayed up all night to study for it. The doctor told me if my IQ was 1 point less, I'd be a banana. So that's why I asked Marty to do me this favor to help me with this episode of Tuesday with Tony Atlas. Now, the first person I want to talk about, and I brought a little thing here for Marty. And so Marty's going to read y'all a little something about this person.
So I'm going to just take liner notes of some bullet points.
Okay,
right?
sir. Yeah.
So John Quincy Adams' second career in Congress. Adams' long second career in Congress was at least as important as the earliest as a diplomat. Throughout, he was conspicuous as an opponent, and the expansion of slavery was a heart of abolishment, though he never became one of the in a political sense of the word. So he tried to abolish slavery.
Yep. And what year was that?
1839.
1839. We have John Quincy Adams. Now, I want y'all to know that don't never hear that name. John Quincy Adams was Caucasian, not black. He was a Caucasian man. Now, I know a lot of blacks that back in them days, it was very, very hard for a black person to try to fight for freedom. It had to be twice as hard for a Caucasian to fight for freedom. During that time, they probably look at him as being a traitor to his race. He took the stand for us back in this is way before the Civil War. And it's more that Marty's going to read to you. And then he get down the line, I'm going to show you. Now, they made a movie about him, too, but it didn't got the view that it should have. But Marty's going to tell you some more about John Quincy Adams.
So some liner notes again. Adams presented a petition from 22 slaves and threatened by his opponents with censure. He defended himself with remarkable keenness and ability. At each of these sessions, a majority against it decreased until in 1884, his motion to repeal the standing 21st gag rule was carried by vote 108 to 80, and his long battle was over. So I'm assuming that he was threatened with a gag rule.
That's what I was saying, because here you talk about slavery back in the day. Even though it was a horrible thing, I don't agree with it. I don't agree to putting anybody in slavery. But slavery was also an economic thing. Slaves were not for the poor. I mean, if you was poor, you couldn't buy a slave. I mean, buying a slave back then was like buying a brand new Mercedes Benz today or buying a Rolls Royce. I mean, they were very, very expensive, and it was a labor. It was a way for people to work the fields and have the labor to do it. See, back in the old days, they didn't have backhoes, they didn't have tractors, they didn't have plows, so everything was manual. So you take the pyramids in Egypt. Labor built that. They didn't use a crane to put up them stones. They didn't use a backhoe. They didn't use a forklift to lift them stones. They used manual labor. And labor, when you're building a new country, and America at that time was a new country being developed. So you need a lot of labor in order to develop. So slavery was just not a thing that were white against black. Slavery was a thing about economics, because you need the labor. They didn't have enough labor to perform what needed to be performed. The fields, the cotton fields, the corn fields, the pig farms, all that stuff. You needed labor because at that time the South was the breadbasket of the United States. So people in Massachusetts, if you was in Massachusetts, you want to have pork, it'd have to come from North Carolina or South Carolina. If you want to buy a nice wood jacket or a nice wood sweater, I mean, the cotton came from South Carolina or Louisiana, but you had to have somebody to pick that cotton, somebody to to do all the labor. So labor was very, very, very important to. It was like a business. So slavery was not a thing definitely about race. It was about business. We need this labor in order to manufacture all the goods that America need. You're going to go tell some more.
Let's see. Let's see. In the United States in 1842, should be foreign
1842.
free. That, with the exception of Florida, no new state should be admitted into the Union with slavery,
I hear that.
and that neither slavery nor slave trade should exist in the District of Columbia after July 4th, 1845.
Now, ain't that something? Now, this is all before the Civil War. The Civil War would have found an episode, but this was a guy that put his career. I mean, he was a congressman. I mean, he was in line to be president. In fact, I may be wrong. It might be in here. Marlon may find it, but I might be wrong. But I think he lost the presidency because of his, the way he felt. He felt that every man on the earth should have freedom. He didn't feel that no man should enslave uh, uh, another man. And it's more there. Now, they made a movie about John Quincy Adams. It's somewhere in here, down here at the bottom. Let me take off my Marty glasses and put on my spectacle so I can see what I'm talking about. Right here, I'm good there. Here's the movie they made right here. That's what he was known for.
Okay, so we got another spectacular contribution Adams to the anti-slavery cause was his championing of the cause of Africans arrested aboard the slave ship Amistad.
All-Star. Right.
Slaves who had mutinied and escaped from their Spanish owners off the coast of Cuba had gone and wound up bringing up the ship into the United States waters near Long Island.
Long Island, where we at?
That's great.
Yeah. Go on there with that.
All right. New York, Adams defended their freedom before the Supreme Court in 1841 against the efforts administration of President Martin Van Buren to return them to their masters and an inevitable death. Adams won their freedom.
See there? Now, Adams was not African American. In fact, I don't know if y'all can see this. I'm going to try my best to show y'all John Quincy Adams. That's him. That's the man in the 1800s fought for my freedom. And every time they have Black History Week or Black History Month, I find it's a shame. It's an absolute shame that this man is not talked about. I mean, he was a convert. He was threatened. He put his life on the line, and he did it all for me. He did it for Muhammad Ali. He did it for Martin Luther King. He did it for Barack Obama. Every Black American should know this name, John Quincy Adams. And this was, 18-something? We talked about 200 years ago. So when you talk about some of the people, the first civil rights worker, if John Quincy Adams is not mentioned as one of the first civil rights workers, then you leave it out. In everything in life, every plant that grows, every tree that grows, before there's a tree, there's something you call a root. I'm talking about the root of the civil rights movement. This man is at the beginning of the root. This is the root of the tree. It's not the branches. It's not the leaves. It's the root. Okay, tell some more about Mr. Adams there.
Well, John Quincy Adams ended up dying of a stroke in 1848.
That's a shame.
And
there's a picture of him having a stroke on the Congress floor.
So basically, this guy was led the forefront in trying to stop. And I got to tell you the truth, I never thought about John Quincy Adams as being
because
person.
every time that they do a Black History Month, they make it look like that we won this battle, just us. You was not involved. Anybody that was Caucasian was not involved, which is absolutely untrue. As President Trump would say, fake news.
Right.
Every time you have a civil rights movement, you hear about all the black people that fought for their freedom. But these black people will not have a threshold or ground to stand on without the support of non-blacks. And there was a lot of them. It wasn't just John Quincy Adams. I mean, John Quincy Adams is one of them. Another gentleman. I know I'm you know how Tony do. I'm all over the place. I mean, one minute I'm on the moon, next minute I'm on the sun, next minute I'm on Earth, and next minute I don't know what the hell I'm at. There's another gentleman that I like. I get Marty to do that because Marty's a better reader to me. His pronunciation.
I'm not sure. I'm not so sure about that guy.
His pronunciation is a whole lot better than my pronunciation.
John Brown.
John
of
Brown.
Torrington, Connecticut.
Now, this is something that I just learned today. You know, you got a West Virginia. When he was around, there was no West Virginia. There was just Virginia. And listen to what he's going to tell you about that. Yeah, watch this one here.
Let me just see. In 1959 in Virginia, they made him what is that?
No. Start here. You have to start here.
So he's a militant and American abolitionist whose raid on the federal arsenal in Harper's Ferry, Virginia, in 1859, and made to anti-slavery cause was instrumental in heightening sectional. That led to American Civil War. So he was like is this fair enough to be almost like not a vigilante, but before the Civil War started, he had a group of people that were fighting against slavery.
Yes. And this was in what year we talked about? See, back then, if you look at it, it said Charlestown, Virginia.
Right.
Charlestown, Virginia. Now Charlestown, Virginia don't exist no more. Charlestown, Virginia is now West Virginia. You see what I'm saying? See, West Virginia went with the South. Virginia went with the South. West Virginia went with the Union. That's how they separated. That became West Virginia and Virginia. Before it was just Virginia. There was no West Virginia. Yeah. Go on with a little bit more.
So it's just fair to say that he started this after the death of John Quincy Adams. So he almost was taking on the cause, right?
And it went on and on. Now, there's a whole lot more history here that I want him to read. And there's a lot more Caucasians that he's going to mention here that was involved other than John Brown and John Quincy Adams. Caucasian, we talk about that. And this is Black History Month. Black History Month. Black History Month have nothing to do with just black people. Black History Month got to do with American fights for every American to have freedom. It had nothing to do with black people. Now, y'all may get mad at me for saying that. But if you know your history, you know there was a hell of a lot more people involved in this other than just black people fighting for this cause.
Though he was white, in 1849, Brown settled with his family in a black community founded at North Elber, New York, on land donated by New York anti-slavery philanthropist Jerry Smith, long a foe of slavery. Brown became obsessed with the idea of taking overt action to help win justice for enslaved black people. In 1855, he followed 5 of his sons to the Kansas Territory to assist anti-slavery forces struggling for control there, a conflict that became known as Bleeding Kansas.
Bleeding Kansas.
While a wagon laden with guns and ammunition, Brown settled and soon became the leader of the anti-slavery guerrillas in that area.
You don't look black to me. That's John Brown. This is the man that sacrificed everything. Everything. And when I say everything, when he gets to the end of these notes that I got, you're going to understand what I mean by this man sacrificed everything for me. I want people to know this. I want them to know this.
Let me see what we got here.
And this is Black History Month.
So, brooding over a sack of the town of Lawrence by a mob of slavery sympathizers, Brown concluded that he had a divine mission to take vengeance. 3 days later, he led a nighttime retaliatory raid on pro-slavery settlement in Pochaqueen Creek, with 5 men who dragged out of their cabins and hacked to death. After the raid, which became known as the Potomkian Massacre, a name of Old Brown conjured a fearful image among local slavery apologists. So basically, he was a vigilante.
He was a vigilante. It was a vigilante, but he went to extreme about it. But back in them days, he felt the best way to get people attention is to go all out, and he went all out for us. I mean, he sacrificed everything in order for African America in America to live like everybody else. John Quincy Adams is one. John Brown another. Now there's a whole lot more. But I had a short time, but I do know of these two people because my mom used to talk about them because I'm born in Clifton, Virginia, and my mom talked about it all the time. So and they even made movies about John Brown. They didn't put him in the best light. Let's put it that way. They made him look like he was this crazy guy that didn't know what the hell. But all these men were very well educated. I mean, John Quincy Adams was in Congress, so he wasn't illiterate. Brown, he grew up poor. He lives among blacks. I mean, he was a kid that struggled his whole life. He lives among black people. He got to know them. He didn't know them as slaves. He got to know black people as human beings. So he saw us as a human. He didn't see me as black. He didn't see Pharaoh as a Caucasian. He saw us as Americans. And I'm doing this program so when you think about black history, of all the immigrants that came to this country, and the blacks wasn't the only one. The Orientals went through the same thing, Chinese and Japanese people. I want to do this right. The Catholic Irish went through the same thing. The Italians went through the same thing, but they overcame it through hard work, pulling themselves up, and respect for each other, and they gained the respect of the American people. And I'm doing this hoping that my race eventually would do what the Irish did, would do what the Chinese did, would do what the Jewish people did. You know, Jewish people went through hell and high water, not just here in America, but in Europe and in Egypt. If you read the Bible, I mean, Moses led the Jewish people from Egypt, across the river that swallowed Pharaoh's army.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
To bring it to wrestling, right?
Yeah. Well, this is the reason I do it. At the end, I'm going to explain why.
I do want to ask a question. So you're picking out Caucasians who fought for the right of African Americans.
Right.
In wrestling, right, you were in the 70s, and you've explained many times on the Tuesdays with Tony and on many other interviews that the struggles the black man had to deal with in pro wrestling, right? And how only one star was allowed in a certain area.
Right.
What Caucasian in wrestling fought for the rights of African Americans?
Cowboy Bill Watts.
Why?
Cowboy Bill Watts got kicked out of the NWA. It used to be the NWA. Now, the NWA had, it went from the South, Southeast, all the way to the Northeast. Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, Louisiana, Oklahoma, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Florida was all part of the NWA. Remember, Ric Flair was NWA champion.
Right.
Harley Race was NWA champion. Now, the WWF at that time was the WWF. There were 3 W. They did from Maine to Maryland. Once you got past Maryland, that was called the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Now, Mid-Atlantic was part of the NWA.
Right.
Now, the guy that started the NWA was a guy by the name of Eddie Graham out of Florida. Mm-hmm. He was the one that got all these promoters to come to form this group. They had 3 major companies, NWA, AWA, which was Vern Gagne up in, Vern Gagne was the second largest group, believe it or not. He went from Minneapolis, Minnesota, all the way to Las Vegas. I mean, I wrestled with Captain, with Jumpy Jim Bronzell against the War Warrior in AWA back around 85 or 86 when I was when I was there. And that was the three big companies. Now the WWF, believe it or not, were the smallest of all of them. NWA was the thing. If you look at a title, they didn't have the Mid Atlantic title was local. Georgia Championship Wrestling champion. They had all these different champions of different territory, but they had one champion that went from the southeast all the way across the United States to the northeast. So that whole bottom of the United States, Texas, everything, Louisiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, that's Jeremy the King Lawler. He was part of the NWA.
Right.
So all of that was NWA. Everything that was not AWA or WWF was NWA back then. Right. That's why the NWA, to me, was the best champion, because you have to go and fight the Georgia champion. You have to fight the Texas champion. You have to fight the Louisiana champion. The Mid-South champion. Bill Watts' territory was called Mid-South, was Oklahoma and Louisiana.
So Watts was part of that board of NWA.
Right, and
people.
Bill Watts was what he did. The first time that he crossed over, they have never, except for one time, been a black person working in the office. At that time they called it the booker. Mm-hmm. Now the booker is a number two guy. That's a number two man. The promoter. So let's say the WWF. Vince McMahon was a promoter, owner, and founder. Pat Patterson was the booker. He was the number two guys in charge. Bill Watts made Ernie the Cat Ladd. He played professional football. He's in the Football Hall of Fame. Great gentleman. Made Ernie Ladd the first booker. Also, Cowboy Bill Watts made Ron Summers the first African-American world champion.
Let's go back to the Booker part, though. When he made Ernie Ladd Booker, did he get a lot of heat for allowing Ernie Ladd to be a booker?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. A lot of the people was against him, because even right now today, in most offices, there's no black people in the office. You find a lot of black wrestlers at Champion, a lot of black wrestlers at this, a lot of black wrestlers at that. But when it comes to the office, there was no blacks in any office, nowhere, until Bill Watts did it. So Bill Watts joined these people. Cowboy Bill Watts. He joined John Brown. He joined John Quincy Adams. So like I say, even in wrestling, you have black people that fought for the rights of other black wrestlers. Another guy that nobody talk about, I wish I had his name. His name was Sputney Monroe. Now, Sputney Monroe, Ric Flair stole from him. Cadillac Diamond Ring Man. That was Sputney. If you can find some old interview of Sputney Monroe, everything that he had a strut, Ric Flair took Sputney Monroe's strut. When you see Sputney Monroe, you see Ric Flair, you see Sputney Monroe. When I first met Sputney Monroe, I was in Amarillo, Texas. I was working for Dory Funk, who is Terry Funk's brother, Dory Funk Jr., because there's a Dory Funk Sr. So I say, hey, where can I get some soul food? I mean, I wanted some oxtails, some mac and cheese, with the little crumbs on top, and you bake it so to get that crust on it. You know what I'm talking about.
That's good stuff.
Then the collard greens, with a little bit of fat back laid over in that. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all that, know soul food we're talking about. So they say, that's Sputnik. Now, we had a black wrestler in the territory named Ray Candy. Every time I asked for something, they didn't say ask Ray Candy, who was black, African American. They said ask Sputnik. So I said, hey, I like to get a little action going tonight. Back then, with me, action, have sex. I used to have sex. Now having sex with me like playing pool with a rope. So no enjoyment there. On a woman's end, no enjoyment. Me, I'm having a good time. 30 suckers, I'm good. 30 suckers, I'm done. I'm good with that. But anyway, make a long story short, they said, talk to Sputnik. So Sputnik knew all the black people. But Sputnik was also a heel. Now, also, Sputnik Monroe, his manager, when he first started, was the fabulous Moolah.
Really?
Yeah, and they used to call her the slave girl.
Uh-huh.
She used to wear a leopard-like jacket, and she used to manage Sputnik Monroe, the fabulous moolah.
Wow.
So anyway, I go out to the ring, and I look out. I say, "Oh man, I'm gonna do good tonight." 80% of the audience is black. I know I'm gonna do good. So I go out. A couple people go, "Hey!" I flex my muscle. Hey! Then here comes Sputnik with that walk. The place come unglued. Every black person in the ring is cheering for Sputnik. I'm sitting there looking. I said, hey, come on, come on. I'm black. You black. He's white. I'm black. You black. He's white. Why you cheering for him? Sputnik, Sputnik, Sputnik. So every time Sputnik hit me, everybody go, yay! I hear Sputnik go, boo! He was loved by black people all over. The only other guy that I knew in this business that had that charisma with African Americans was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I was with Dusty Rhodes many times. And one time we was there doing TV. When Ted Turner had the first cable network, started in 1973. There was no CNN then. When you turn on TBS, you got wrestling and old movies. That's what it was. Turn up, broadcast, classic movies. That's what the TBS was. Turner broadcast, and he would show all. He brought up all these old movies, and the only time that you saw anything in color, was when a wrestler came on. So Ted Turner had a great love for pro wrestling, a great love for it, a great love for it. So he had the first cable network. TBS Georgia Championship Wrestling at that time went into 48 different states. The only state it did not go into was Alaska and Hawaii. So that's why when I went to the WWF in the 80s, everybody knew me. Before his death, Bill Watts, Cowboy Bill, not Bill Watts, Bruiser Brody, King Kong Bruiser Brody. And I was talking to him one day, I said, Bruder, you pretty popular. He said, I'm not as popular as you, Tony. He said, because you're on that TV, he said, you know from coast to coast because you're on that TV. So getting back to Dusty Rhodes, so one day I'm sitting there, we get ready to do TV taping. We do TV taping in Atlanta, Georgia. And then the next day we do TV taping in Columbus, Georgia with Fred Walk. Jim Barnett was the Atlanta promoter. Fred Walk was the Columbus and Macon, Georgia promoter. So we're going to do TV with this black lady on the outside. And she had mac and cheese. She had collard green. And she had oven fried chicken. When you fry chicken in the oven, that's what was real popular down south. Oven fried chicken. You fry it in the oven.
Yeah, sure.
Later on, they came up with a thing called shake and bake. That's pretty much the same thing when you shake and bake. So anyway, I said, well, me and Tommy Wildfire Rich was riding together. So I said, Tommy said, oh, we're going to eat good tonight, T. I said, why is that? He said, look at the sister there. She got a whole basket full of food. I know that for you, T. I know that for you, T. I know you're going to give me some of that food, ain't you, T? I said, yeah, Tommy, you know me. You're going to tear that food all to pieces. So I went up to the lady. I go, hi. She go, oh, hi. Oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? I said, what you got there? She said, oh, you want to know what I got here? I said, yes, ma'am. What you got there? I got some fried chicken. I got some macaroni and cheese. And I also got them nice collard green. And I didn't drown them. I cook them in very low water so they be nice and crispy. I said, oh, ma'am, thank you. She said, thank me for what? I said, is that for me? She said, no. I said, who is it for? That's for Dusty.
That's wrong.
I mean, you mean Dusty Rhodes?
That's
she
wrong.
Said, yes, the blue-eyed soul brother.
That's wrong.
She said, that's my blue-eyed soul brother. And I said, well, when I see your blue-eyed soul brother, I'm going to tell him to give me a piece of that damn chicken. So sure enough, that's what it was. I mean, Dusty Rhodes was loved by African Americans. Sputnik Monroe was loved by African Americans. And Dusty did a lot for black people. I mean, he helped me a lot. in Georgia. He gave Skip Young his first break as Sweet Brown Sugar. I mean, Skip went all over. Skip was a hell of an athlete. Justin gave Rocket Johnson a great break, because Rocket wrestled in Florida. And Dustin went to bat for Rocket to make sure that Rocket was taken care of. He went to bat for Ernie Ladd. And if you talk to any black wrestler from the 70s, now these younger guys, they don't know Dustin. They have nothing bad to say about Dusty Rhodes. They can't. Dusty Rhodes took very, very good care. And he treated us like when we were around Dustin, we didn't feel like we were around a Caucasian guy. I mean, he talked the talk, he walked the walk. He was a great guy. Sputnik Monroe was a great guy. Cowboy Bill Watt. You take these two Canadians, George and Sandy Scott. I mean, they promoted me. They pushed the hell out of Rufus R. Freight Train Jones, who was a African American wrestler. I mean, they pushed Rufus. Rufus never got a real good break. People talk about Ole Anderson being racist, because Ole, he had no filter. Ole would call you the N-word. He would call you a dumb Polak. He would call you anything, but mean none of it. He mean absolutely none of it. He made me Georgia champion. He made Thunderbolt Patterson, who was another African American, he made Thunderbolt the king. I remember one time, Thunderbolt and Ole got in an argument, and Ole always cursed. He called you a stupid piece of crap or stupid piece of this. He was like an old football coach, would get in your face. And he was a big Polish guy, big, strong, 275-pound Polish guy with 20-inch, got arms like the Pharaoh, them big old 20-inch guns, natural big arms, So he would talk to Thunderbolt went in office one day. And he said, look, I want you to get Dick Slater over. Dick Slater was a very popular wrestler. He's going to fight Thunderbolt Patterson. So he said, I'd like for Slater to cheat and get a win on you. You just want me to win because I'm black. And Ole turned and said, if you was white, I'll fire your ass with that much shit you give me. He said, the only reason I keep you because you black. He said, a white wrestler is a dime a dozen in this business. A good drawn black wrestler is very hard to find. So Thunderbolt, when people talk about racism in wrestling, I said, yeah, there was a lot of racism in wrestling. A lot of it. But it was all pointed towards white people. If you was black, we was needed so badly. Because there wasn't many black wrestlers, not like today, wasn't many black wrestlers. So if you look back at your history book, had it ever dawned on you that every black wrestler ever been in this business was a main eventer?
This is true.
Think about it. We was never the underdog on any.
Was there ever was certain territories that black wrestlers like you all spoke and said don't go up there because it's just not a good area to go to? Or
they wanted us. I mean, I went everywhere. That was Bruiser. I meant to tell the show about Bruiser Brody. Bruiser said, Tony, you everywhere. He said, there's no place I could go and nobody don't know Tony Atlas. He said, you known in California, you known in Texas, you known here, you known here. He said, I'm just known a few places. Bruiser Brody became more popular after his death than what it was when we was living.
Sure.
And he told me that one time, it kind of shocked me. He said, I can't go nowhere where people don't know Tony Atlas because I'm on Georgia Chapter Wrestling. Now, there wasn't, and every black wrestler got the best break. Now, what they were, I know this is Black History Month, what they were, a lot of, and in my opinion, they still have it. There was a lot of sexism. The wrestler felt that wrestling was not the business for women. They always felt that. I used to listen to guys, they're like guys, a girl would come and be with a wrestler sexually. Then the wrestler would go back to the dressing room and call her an arena rat. They call her a rat, remember? Right, sure. They was called rats. And they did everything for us. I mean, they picked us at the airport. They drove us places. They bought our beer. They bought our food.
Is that like a macho thing, though, between the boys? Or
it was, because they felt that wrestling was something, this is a man job. We had no place in wrestling for women. Women should be on the sideline, in the bedroom, in the kitchen, but not in the ring. That's how it was. Same thing in bodybuilding. I was in bodybuilding. I saw a lot of sexism in bodybuilding. I'm going to tell you a story. Now, this story was in 1987. So we're moving up, right? I went to do Monday Night Raw for the WWF at that time. They were still WWF there, right? Or
Yeah.
did they change to
No,
WWE?
they were still
now?
WWF. Though.
WWF. And so anyway, I went there to do a TV taping. They want to do something with Dwayne Johnson. He was wrestling then, not as The Rock, but as Rock Maivia.
Rocky Maivia.
Rocky Maivia. Then he wore the same outfit that his grandfather Peter Maivia wore, and they want to do a little skit with me and Dwayne. In fact, you probably found a tape where Rock is on the way to the ring and he stopped and hugged me and everything. And then another little part where Rock was in the ring wrestling. His father jumped in the ring and pulled his shirt off, and I was sitting in all of their face. But they decided to go a different route with Rock, which kind of left me out. But anyway, getting back to my story, I was sitting there
Hold on,
in the
before you
dressing
get
room.
too far, what was the original storyline supposed to be? And then and then
Well, from what Alpha told me, because Alpha was at that time had a little connection, one of the Wild Samoan, he said that it would have been good for me and The Rock, but not good for Rocky Johnson. What they want to do, they want to have a match with me and Rocky Johnson, where I turned heel and I just kicked the crap out of Rocky Johnson, and then Dwayne come down and beat me up.
Okay.
They want me to put Dwayne over.
Gotcha.
Because, like Ric Flair said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And during that time, I was still in pretty good shape. I mean, I just got through setting the main bench press record that year of 575 pounds. So, I was still, I was still a pretty good man. Not like an old piece of crap that I am now, old broken down T4 there. But anyway, getting back to the story, I've been in the back of the dressing room, and I saw this woman come through with shoulders like this, arms like this, little bitty waist, muscles everywhere. I go, wow, who in the hell is that? So Arnold Skolin, old time wrestler, said, they call her Chana. I said, what do they call her Chana for? I said, Chana's supposed to be something delicate that if you touch it, it breaks. I said, she looks like a piece of steel.
Well, this has got to be in the later 90s, though, right?
No, this was 87.
This is 87 still?
Yeah,
that can't be, right? Because she didn't come in until like mid 90s, I think, right?
I got to look
Maybe
it up.
late 90s, right? All right, but go ahead.
She was with Triple H then.
All right, so it's got to be later 90s.
Before Triple H got with Stephanie.
Right.
Or was it? Could it be 97?
It could have been 97.
I think you're probably
97.
right.
Okay,
yeah.
fine.
I think no, 87. I was in Texas. You're right.
So semantics, 97. Gotcha.
I just knew it was a 7 there. You're right, Marty. Thank you, Marty. In 1997, we doing Monday Night Raw. So I went over. I said, "How long you been training?" She told me. She told me she got trained by Killer Kowalski. I said, "Yeah, I know Killer. I wrestled him many times." I said, "He nearly killed me, that old man." But Killer, he was like an aerobic instructor. He didn't stop. I mean, like doing an aerobic class. Zumba. It was Zumba wrestling with Killer Kowalski. It didn't stop. But anyway, I say it must have took a lot of work for you to look like that. I said, you look fantastic. I said, I've been in a lot of bodybuilding contests. I said, you would win any bodybuilding contest hands down. I said, you look fantastic. She started crying. And so I said, oh shit, I don't got myself in trouble. I don't piss this girl off. What did I say wrong? And I said, Skolin, why is she crying? He said, them tears of joy. And I said, what do you mean? He said, that was the nicest thing that anyone ever said to her since she been here. The nicest thing that anyone said to her since she been here. I was in a gym with Chana, and the guys were over there doing bench presses, and they had 315 pounds on the bar. Chana walked over and said, can I work in with you guys? Took the 315, started doing wrestling. The guys leave the gym.
I was like, I'm out of here.
97, when I first met her, getting back to that day, all the guys are sitting there in the dressing room with their shirts off. Chana walked through the dressing room. Me and Chana, we went through the dressing room. And when we lived went that way through the dressing room, everybody had their shirts off. When me and Chana came back through the dressing room, everybody had their shirt back on. The thing with Chana was, she made men feel inferior. You didn't feel big and strong around this woman.
Sure.
I mean, you felt like you was the weakest sex with Chana. And Chana, then you can ask Triple H, because he was in the gym with me when Chana went over and did that 315. And she did that just to mess with him, you know. But then she would say she looked like a man. She's a man. She this, she that. Look at the chin. They talked about her horribly. And the reason the girl became so depressed, because she never really, she was before her time. Today, she would have been good, because now Vince, I got to give him credit. He started a woman league, you know, where women get the same opportunity now in pro wrestling that they did, that they didn't got. Blacks always got the opportunity. I mean, you go back to black wrestlers like Sweet Daddy Sika. This is the fifth and sixth I'm talking about. Bobo Brazil.
Bobo Brazil, yeah.
Bobo Brazil, he was one of the most popular wrestlers in the world. I mean, he was a main event everywhere he went. He fought Andre the Giant, everybody, Bobo Brazil. But every black wrestler that ever got into that ring got a better opportunity than a white wrestler. So the only person that did not get the opportunity they deserved during that time, look at Paul Muller and Mae Young. They didn't get their break until they became senior freaking citizens.
Sure.
Muller was in her 60s before people even know who the hell she were.
Right.
And she was world champion for many, many, many years, you know? And that's why I'm doing this program about black history, because black history got nothing to do with, in my opinion, this is my opinion, y'all get mad at me, it got nothing to do with black people. Black people, Irish, Scottish, Spanish, are all part of America. And if you read, when he was reading this part, I don't know if y'all caught this, but this part here with
John Brown.
no, it wasn't John Brown, John Quincy Adams.
Quincy Adams.
When he got the ship, where we saw that at?
Slave ship. Amistad.
Almost. Okay, read that. Now listen closely.
Another spectacular contribution by Adams to the anti-slavery cause was his championing of the cause of Africans arrested aboard a slave ship, Amistad, slaves who had mutinied to escape from their Spanish owners off the
No,
coast.
stop.
Okay.
Now what did you say?
To escape from their Spanish owners.
Did you say Irish?
No, Spanish.
Did you say Dutch?
No, Spanish.
Did you say German?
Spanish.
Spanish. Spain. That's Spain. That's not America. Spain. Not America. He said, read it again, Spanish owners.
Owners, yes.
The coast of Cuba. In Spain, they were slaves. In Cuba, they were slaves. In Long Island, New York, they became free. In Long Island, New York.
Yes.
In what year we talking about here now, Marty? We talking
Are
about.
talking about.
We're in the 1800s here. We
We're in
ain't
the
talking about
1800s, yeah.
1800.
1841.
1841. The Spaniard was really rich. Spain was really, really into slavery. The reason America get the blame for slavery, because we were the last of the Mohegan, and we ended it. We were the last of the Mohegan. Yes, slaves came to America, but America also freed the slaves so that no one could use them anymore. The Spain couldn't use them. Ireland couldn't use them. No one could use them anymore. Right here, there was something else that I was reading about John Brown, and I don't want to get too much in it, but y'all look these people up. Y'all gotta look these people
Why,
up.
it's pretty important. I want to say a couple of things, Tony, real quick.
Before you say that,
Yep.
read this last paragraph.
Although Brown failed to spark a general slave revolt, the high moral tone of his defense helped to immortalize him and to hasten the war that would bring emancipation.
Yes.
Nothing that the gaze of
Proclamation.
Europe was fixed on America. French novelist Victor Hugo wrote, Brown's hanging would open the latent fissue that is finally split to union asunder.
And go down right here and watch it.
As they marched on into battle during the Civil War, Union soldiers sang a song called John Brown's. Very interesting.
John Brown. He was hung, strung up, like you hang on a piece of meat. And why did they hang John Brown? Because John Brown felt that every American should have the freedom and rights, no matter what the color of their skin was. The civil rights movement didn't start with some lady sitting on a bus and, 100 years later. It didn't go with some Georgia preacher by the name of Martin Luther King 100 years later.
But I think to be
It
fair,
started 100 years earlier.
But I think to be fair, there's always a spark that starts something.
That's it.
And these gentlemen were
They
the
the
spark.
spot. They the root.
Yes, the root, like you said
The
at the
root.
beginning of the show.
We always look, when you look at a tree, you always see the leaves, you see the trunk, you see the branches. What is always left out of every time you look at a tree? What is left out of that tree that nobody ever paying attention? Oh, don't even think about. And you know what that one thing is? This is it. The root of the tree of freedom. These people are the root. That's why they bury it. That's why we bury them. Nobody look at the root. If you want to, and they tried to kill the root. But they couldn't kill the root because the root had many tentacles. And here's some of the tentacles right here. Here's some of the tentacles. Okay, all right. I think it started here, Marty, and it goes to about right here. But I want to mention these people's names. I don't want them to be left out. I want y'all to know that these more white folks out. I'm talking about white folks, and I'm talking about Black History Month. Ain't that something? You're going to learn something tonight. You're going to learn something. I'm telling you.
I'm going to start here, and hopefully it captures what you need. He was elected commander-in-chief of the paper government, which is gaining the moral and financial support of Gerrit Smith and several prominent Boston abolitionists. In addition to Smith, this group later referred to as the Secret Six, comprised of physician and educator Samuel Gridley Howe, teacher and journalist Franklin Benjamin Sandmore, industrialist George L. Stearns, and ministers Thomas Worthington Higginson and Theodore Parker. Some of them had provided financial support for Brown's effort in Kansas that would back his next and most famous undertaking.
Do we need to say more? So I want to tell you, all y'all people get out here talk about Black History, but it's good to give credit where credit is due. It is wrong to bury those that started it. They started it. It's just like we don't talk about Vince Sr. no more. He started it. Just like not talking about Hulk Hogan anymore. WrestleMania started it. Every pro wrestler in the world today, Bobby Lashley, all of them, they owe it to Hulk Hogan. He's the root. You can say what you want to say about Hogan. He's the root. He's the guy that gave birth to Stone Cold Steve Austin. He gave birth to Bret the Hitman Hart. He gave birth to these people. John Brown, John Quincy Adams, and all these other people that Monte. I'm going to have Monte to put this up. And y'all can go and read it yourself. Now, there's more on the computer. I went to the library. I got a nice lady there. And I couldn't think of all the other people involved. But someday, just sit down, black people, especially black people, sit down and say, go on the computer and say, who was all the Caucasians that fought for my freedom? America is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful country. And no race, no one race ever won any victory by itself. The victory that I had being a WWE Hall of Famer and a bodybuilding Hall of Famer didn't come from the sacrifice of just black people. It was, if that was the case, we wouldn't be here. We only make up 13% of the American population. So how the hell we did that? How did we become successful with only 13% of the population? How in the hell can we have black congressmen, black mayors, black police officers, black police chiefs? Now, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. That coach that talked about he being racist, discriminating, and everything, for his paycheck, you can be racist against me. Give me all your racism. I take that paycheck. That man is in a hell of a position. He got no right to say, I don't know his name.
John Gruden,
Is that his name?
the football coach of the Raiders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, man. See, that's the stuff we need to get away from. You can't judge a whole race of people on the action of a few. You can't judge a police department for the action of a few. I wouldn't want you to judge me over OJ. You know, I don't want you to think I'm just like OJ just because I'm black. You know? So us as America, we got to look at all the people. Don't leave people out that have so much involvement. This man got strung up. He got strung up for trying to help me. We gave him a stroke fighting for our rights. He had a stroke fighting. And look at all the people with John Brown that he just read to y'all, with John Brown that was involved. And guess who killed him? Colonel Robert E. Lee.
Wow. Wow.
They sent a military in after him. Colonel Robert E. Lee. And you know who else was at this? Was at this lynching? John Wilkes Booth.
Wow.
John Wilkes Booth was involved in that.
Later, Abraham Lincoln's assassin. Wow.
Abraham Lincoln assassin went after him first. He was number one on the list. So if you're going to talk about Black History Month, I would like for every American, black, white, Chinese, whoever, to start at the root, not in the middle. We always started in the 60s. We leaving out 100 years of Black history. It be left out. Why? Because they are Caucasians. So they don't fit. You're Caucasian. No, we can't. No. Yeah, but I help black people. I don't care. I help free the slave. I don't care. You gotta be black. You want my respect? You want my respect? You gotta be black. What about my money? Oh, yeah, I take your money. What about my help? Oh, I take your help. Do I get a little credit? Oh, no, you don't get no credit. It's wrong. Over the years, there have been so many Caucasians, Jewish people, Irish, that fought for the right for me to be here. We always talk about American soldiers going overseas fighting for the rights of others. Well, America just don't do it overseas. We started this stuff 1839. White folks, white people. 1839. And white people got involved with Tony Atlas. I know a lot of y'all say, well, they should have left that Tony Atlas alone. He's driving me freaking crazy. Too bad. I'm here now. So this is what I want to do. I want to talk about the root. Because in every plant, every garden, you see the fruit. You never see the root. But the root give life to the tree.
Yep.
The root give life to the flower. The root give life to every plant. And the root always, always give life to what grows. And every time I hear him talk about, well, the lady that started the civil rights movement was what the lady that sat on the bus there. I can't think of her name right now. But it always started with her. And then Martin Luther King. And what happened before that? And then they go back a little bit with the lady that did the Underground Railroad. But how did they do that? How this woman ran the Underground Railroad?
Well, that's why they got you, Tom.
Now, I'll tell you, no, it wasn't. If you were slaves, who ran the railroad? It wasn't blacks. It was white families. They took the slaves from one house to another house to another house to Canada. There were no slaves on the house. So who was in that house? Martians? Aliens? People from space? Who was running this? She ran and got them and took them where? To white people's homes.
Yep.
But do you know these people's names? Do you know her name? Because they were the root. Nobody look at the root of nothing. To solve any problem, you got to look at the root of it. I cut my grass every year. It grows right back. I cut it, it grows back. I cut it, it grows back. I pull it out by the root, it don't come back. And this is the reason why civil rights don't work in America. Because you have to start at the root of it. Got to start at the root if you want to know what make it grow. This is the root of my freedom. This is the root, not just of my freedom, because it spawns over. Where the Indians got free, this race became free. That race became free. Now in America, we're all on the same field. If you fail in America today, and you want to look for someone to blame, look in the mirror. I have said this 1,000 times. My success in life, I owe to thousands and thousands of people like Monte here. My success. My failure in life, I owe only to me, for I am the captain of my own ship.
Smart man.
I make my decision, and I have to live by the decision I make, right or wrong. So I want to thank y'all. Is my hour up yet?
Real quick before you go, I'm going to step away. I just want you to answer one question before we go. But fantastic show. This is why Tuesdays with Tony is one of the best shows around, and we're honored to have you on the channel. I just need to know, I'm going to step away. I just want to know, Tony, what did a wrestler do back in the day to enjoy themselves? I'm going to step away for a few minutes. All right. And maybe you could explain to the fans.
Wake her up. Yeah.
And I'll be back.
Yep. Yeah, but anyway, one of the things, one of the things, now wrestling, I don't know how much time I got left in this. Let me see how much time I got left. Okay, one of the things that happened to us, wrestlers for many, many years, they did not have entertainment. We didn't go to movies. We didn't watch television. What we did, we create our own fun, our own entertainment. And now every wrestler, one thing about me in wrestling, when I first started in wrestling, when I first started in wrestling, one of the things that I took and found out about is if you wasn't weird, if you wasn't freaking, if you wasn't has something sick about you. They used to tell me, you're in the wrong business, kid. I mean, I've seen orgies. I've seen guys doing this. I've seen guys doing that. Now, as you all know, that what Tony Atlas thing has been. Now, everybody say that Tony got a foot fetish. Tony do not have a foot fetish. Let's get that straight right away. Tony do not have a foot fetish. Tony Atlas have a shoe fetish. And this is my sidekick. You know why I call him my sidekick? Ah, oh yeah. You see that? That's my sidekick. This is Clucci. Clucci is my sidekick. And what I used to do, I used to go back in the room and I used to get a girl and put on a pair of sneakers just like this. And she would do this. And she would do that. That's my sidekick, Clucci. So I want all y'all to meet for the first time on the Monte and the Pharaoh show. My sidekick, throw him up here. I'm going to slide her around. That's my sidekick. So hello. So now y'all met Tony Atlas. Tony Atlas got a shoe fetish, not a foot fetish. And she's also a very good friend of mine. I've been knowing this young lady for over 20-some years. She's a very good athlete and a good friend, and she traveled with me now. Y'all going to see her on the circuit with me, and she helped keep me straight, keep me out of trouble, and help me with my stuff. This is Tony, Mr. USA Atlas, saying good night, along with my sidekick, Clucci. Good night.
Good job, Clucci.